Welcome to Ask Cadence, everybody. Another week. My name is Pete Wright, sitting around the table here with John Patton.
Hello, Pete. Good morning.
Good morning. And Scott Lissett, back again.
Hi, nice to be here.
We are picking up where we have left off the last several weeks. We've been talking about implementing a methodology of project management in an organization, and we started last week talking about the minimum elements of a methodology. If you're considering implementing a methodology, what do you need to do? And we focused on the first and I don't know if we would say most important, but the idea of a life cycle, having a life cycle that's flexible. The second item on the list that we didn't get to talk about last week is roles. What are the important roles supporting the project management, program management infrastructure in an organization? And I think that's where we're going to pick up this week.
Okay, sure, Pete. Remember I said that we define an organization chart, the operation with an organization chart and job descriptions in that organization chart. Whereas since people come from different organizations on a project, we define the project people by roles. So here are some standard roles. Project manager, the overall leader of the project. The coordinator or project administrator. On very large projects, this would be an assistant to the project manager that does administrative kinds of activities. Team members. Team members are subject matter experts. They're specialists. And the project manager's job is to protect their time, keep them productive doing what they do best. In fairly large product development projects, there is sometimes head architect, overall systems engineer, technical leader, generically to speak here. So these are those wonderful people who have the ability to describe in lay terms complex technical issues so that those people who are not subject matter experts can understand. And they're responsible for the overall interface and compatibility among different engineering disciplines. One of the key things that the technical leader and the project manager need to agree upon, for example, is that when there are areas of overlap where it might be confusing as to who is in charge, that the technical leader and the project manager will discuss this before that gray area becomes visible to the team and would start confusing them. Now, managers of project managers are also an important role. Their people are on loan to the project, so how do they manage them? How much management should they give them? How much should come from the project manager? And then the manager of the project manager, that's a key role, as well as sponsors.
I want to be clear. Just a second ago, you said managers of project managers. Did you mean managers of team members?
Yes, I'm talking about two distinct manager levels here. One is the manager of the project manager.
Okay.
And then that's different from the multiple managers of the team members.
Of the team members.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I got confused there for a minute. And then finally on this list, I put sponsors. The sponsor will be at different management levels of the organization based on its size. Now, why are roles important? Let's take the example of a small project where the project manager and the team members work in the same organization. Project manager is a peer. Now the project manager is put in this role of leading his peers. And he or she is going to say, now, what are your tasks? And the team member could say, why are you asking? And the project manager finally struggles and gets this plan together. And he comes up to one of the team members and says, how are you doing on task A? And the team member says, what's it to you? You're not my boss.
You're not the boss of me.
Yeah, right. So it's really to clarify up front that the project manager is in a leadership role for definition and tracking on project tasks, and is not the person's boss, but has been appointed to lead this effort. And so they have legitimate authority to ask for estimates and to ask for, the status of a particular task.
It's functional authority, not administrative authority. Would that be fair?
No, it's project authority,
Project
which is
authority.
a very different thing.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let me add a little bit to that, just to give an example here. John, you talked about job description on the organizational side versus project roles on the other side. And what that really means is that individuals need to wear more than one hat. So for example, let's say somebody is a software engineer in the IT department. Okay, that's their job title in the organization, but they may be assigned to work on more than one project at a time. On one of those projects, they may have the role of a team member. On another of those projects, they might have the role of the technical lead. On another project, they might have the role of the project manager. Now, they're still a software engineer. That's still their job description in the company. But on the project, they have to clearly understand what their role is that they're playing on that project. And there aren't that many roles that a project team needs to be successful. John just went through about half a dozen, but that's really about all you need.
And you don't even need all of them on most projects.
You don't even
right?
need, right. It's really only the larger projects that would have the budget to have a technical lead, for example. On a smaller project, the project manager will probably also have to be leading the technical solution as well as all of the project management functions too. But this is why it's important to document the roles on the project. Include that in the project plan so that on each project, depending on the size, depending on how the project manager wants to run the project, each person is clear on what their function is on the project, not just what their job is in the company.
Excellent. Now, John, I think you had said you wanted to talk a little bit about a company that has implemented successfully.
Yeah, let's get to real world
Yeah,
here. You know,
yeah.
we're talking quite a bit of structure, a lot of words here. So let's give you a company case example. This is of a large telephone company, and we're talking about the real estate division of the company. They were responsible for land and buildings, offices, switch rooms for the whole state. Now, they'd had an audit, and the auditors found that there were between 1,000 and 2,000 projects a year. 80% of those projects came in late and over budget, or both. There was a lot of rework, constant changes during the projects. Okay, and I got a phone call. Now, what you're going to hear in some of my examples as we go through this is this line, I got a phone call. We're really looking for a way to improve our project management. Our projects are coming in late and over budget, and we want to get to consistent, on time, good performance, completion of these projects. So we spent 6 months. We'll talk about the timing here. We spent 6 months setting up and getting organized and implementing, doing some early training of the people for project management. And then after those 6 months where we created a guide and a structure for project management, we assisted them in just course corrections and making sure that things were working smoothly. So it took about a year to get everything implemented. Now, then we said goodbye. And I would call this vice president of the division on an annual basis. How you doing? We'd share things. And I just want to share the structure and then our conversation on year 3. So what we ended up with was a virtual project management office. We didn't call it an office, we just called it a steering committee. It consisted of a director and 2 administrative assistants. We created a leadership team that consisted of the vice president and 4 directors. And the vice president and the 4 directors prioritized the top 100 projects. The directors each had, beneath that list of the top 100, a list of 100 projects each that they prioritized. And then below them were some asset managers, and they had to pay attention to the top 100 first, the director 100 next, and then they could also prioritize after that their own smaller projects inside their areas. So at the end of 3 years, phone call, how's it going? He said, I'm ready for you, John, this year. We completed 1,453 projects. Among those that were on the top 100, 95% came in on time, at or under budget, and within scope. And the cost of construction, changes. We talked about lots of change on these projects. Only 10 of these projects had a need to change their objective.
Out of 1,450.
Out of 1,400, out of the top 100 that we
Okay.
were constantly tracking. And by the way, John, we were implementing quality along with project management. We did that concurrently. And with these two disciplines, the cost of construction has gone down from $120 a square foot 3 years ago to $65 per square foot today. Now, that shows bottom line impact on the business, Pete. That's why people put in a flexible, adaptable methodology.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's a great example. And where, just in terms of reflection, where do you see the biggest impact in implementation? I mean, is it implementing a standard life cycle? Is it just having the 7 people on the steering committee that are constantly looking at the performance? What is it that's the most important? Is there a way to say what's most important here?
I just identified the minimums, Pete, and if any one of those minimums are missing, the implementation is in jeopardy. You have to do those 6 or 7 things to the right degree for the maturity of the organization to get the ball rolling here. Now, the good thing about this company was that they did that continuous improvement. So at the end of 3 years, they were really clicking. And it's analogous to, the Good to Great book, to the flywheel effect. Things really started clicking now, and the cost of construction went down and down and down.
Well, John, was there any turnover among the project managers after doing that?
Oh, yeah, I remember a couple of episodes before, Scott, that you talked about people who didn't like control. Well, in the beginning, the people who were the project managers were construction engineers. That was their training. And we found that many of them, although they were called project managers, were really doing construction engineering. And a good percentage of those, there were some that made the grade and became project managers, but there were others that said, no, just let's define more clearly this job of construction engineer. I want to keep doing that. So yes, Scott, there was a change in who were the project managers in this organization. Glad you raised that. I don't want that to sound threatening to people who are listening out there, but it's reality. There was some change. Those were the facts in this case.
Reality of moving from a chaotic environment to one with more flexible control.
In this case, the people had to really make a choice about what they wanted to do.
Another good discussion. We'll pick it up next week. On behalf of Scott Lissett and John Patton, I'm Pete Wright. Thanks for listening to Ask Kate.